Just before I turned 49, I started something new. And for the first time, I actually didn't have a huge goal set around it. I had been thinking about starting this brand to 50 and beyond for several years and wasn't really sure what I wanted it to look like. But I just decided at the beginning of this year to just go for it. And I don't have any like numbers associated with it. I'm not trying to make a certain amount of money. I'm not trying to get a certain number of followers or likes or comments or anything like that. I'm just kind of going with it and seeing what happens. And so the goals that I do have associated with it are action goals, which is something I've been talking about a lot in my content over the past several weeks. And so those action goals are to create a YouTube video like this one every week, to create a Substack essay that goes along with the same topic as my YouTube video. So it's all aligned, it's all, it flows pretty consistently. And then I take the content that I've created and I use that to make smaller videos for Instagram and TikTok, along with some written content sometimes as well. So those are really my goals. I have a schedule that I lay out. I follow it pretty closely. Sometimes it doesn't work out. For example, this as I'm recording this is not my typical time or day for creating the videos and filming, but it just sort of worked out this way. And so that's another thing that I'm learning is just to be very flexible with the time that I do have. I work a full time job. I have a daughter who is almost 16 and very, very involved with theater and needing to get to rehearsals multiple times a week. She has an active social life. So there's a lot there. And plus, I have a son, I have a husband, I have two dogs, I have my running and my other personal goals. So there's a lot that I need to kind of like figure out, but those are the goals, are to do those actions every week. I've also had to learn some things. So for example, TikTok. Never used TikTok before in my life. I know like my daughter and I have made a couple of like funny videos for her TikTok, but she like that was all her. I had no idea. And I've kind of been avoiding it for a while just because like my husband's on there and he watches all these stupid videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'm on there, he's gonna send me all these things and I don't want that. Just kind of stuff like that. But I also know that it's a great platform for growth. And like I said, I don't have any specific metrics that I'm chasing right now, but if I'm going to do this, I want people to see it. I want it to be beneficial. So I figured, why not? I'll give it a shot. So learning that platform, figuring out what works, what doesn't, it's going to be a long process. And I've only been doing this, I think, for like maybe 7 weeks now. So just trying to figure out when's the best time to post, what kind of content is resonating with people, how to actually do the technical things that I need to do, like getting the video posted, making sure that I have hashtags and the right hook and music and like all of the different things that go into a video, making sure that my video is edited properly and it looks okay. It's a lot, but it's been fun, and I've always been somebody who really enjoys learning and applying that learning. And so I think if you're thinking of starting something new and you don't really know what you're doing, kind of like me, it really does make sense to just jump in and learn as you go, because you can read and you can study and you can research and do all of these things, but until you're actually doing it, you're not going to learn as much. And so I know that a lot of my videos are messy, and maybe I'm not using the right hashtags, or maybe I shouldn't be using them at all. But I'm just figuring that out as I go, and just remembering that this project is really for me ahead of anything else. Like this is my way of really just kind of explaining what I'm learning, what I'm going through. The main topic is aging, right? Like I talk about approaching 50 and beyond. And so that is really, it's almost like a personal journal for me. But I also know that if there are other people who can be helped by this, I want them to see it. And so again, that's why I'm on TikTok and that's why I'm figuring it out. But I think it's really such a great way to learn things, is to just like kind of get over the fear. I know it's scary, and this doesn't have to apply to social media. It can be anything. But when you start something new, it can be scary, especially if you don't know what you're doing or have never done it before. just give it a shot, just give it a try, jump in, play around with it, have fun with it, and just don't take it so seriously. And one thing that you might find interesting is that I didn't tell anybody I was doing this. And I could have. I could have told my family and friends and asked everybody to follow me. That probably would have helped the TikTok situation a little bit more, to have more interaction and more followers. But I really just kind of wanted to build this quietly and to myself for a little while. And it's kind of a funny story because I still wasn't really ready to tell everybody yet. And then I accidentally posted to the wrong Instagram channel. So I have like a personal Instagram that I use, and that's where, most of my friends and family follow me. And then I had started the channel for 250 and beyond. And so I had accidentally posted to my personal page, which also goes into my Facebook, which I'm not using at all for this brand right now. So when I posted it to my personal Instagram, it went onto my personal Facebook page and people started liking it and commenting it. I think it was like it wasn't a video. I think it was just like one of those like carousels that you post. So it was like a bunch of images and people were commenting and liking it and stuff. And it was like 20 minutes before I realized it. And I was like, oh no. I guess the cat's out of the bag, so I guess I have to tell people. But in that moment, I kind of panicked and I deleted it. But then I kept thinking about it and I was like, all right, friends and family have seen it. I might as well just let everyone know what I'm up to. And I did. And I did gain some followers on both TikTok and Instagram. But I was thinking a little bit about why I didn't share, because, like, why wouldn't I want to share that? And I think at first I thought maybe it was because I was embarrassed. Like, I've done a lot of different things. I was a health and fitness coach for a long time. I've owned a few different businesses. I did a lot with like content marketing and stuff years ago. And I have my regular job too. And so I guess I was maybe thinking maybe it was because I didn't want people to judge me or think like, oh, there goes Danny doing another one of her things. But I don't think it was that. I think it was just more that this was something I was doing for myself. I wanted to kind of figure it out and polish it a little bit. But life is messy. Starting a business, starting a brand, starting anything new is often very messy. And now that I'm reflecting on it, I think it probably would have made sense to share it earlier so that people could have seen that. But I'm fine with how it worked out, and I'm not dwelling on it. And I do think it's a little bit funny that that was sort of the way that I announced it to my family and friends. It was like purely a mistake, purely an error on my part. But I've gotten some really great support from my family and friends because of it. Another thing that I did touch on a little bit earlier is, just starting something new, you kind of have to find the time to fit it in. And that's something that I've done with other things in the past. Like, for years and years and years, I was not somebody who exercised. And so when I started working out, I had to kind of figure that out. Like, well, when am I going to do this? And ultimately, I learned that early mornings are best for me for a number of reasons, but mainly if I don't do it first thing, I don't do it at all. So that's sort of been my schedule. And I know that. And there are days where, maybe first thing in the morning doesn't work out. Maybe I have to be somewhere early, or maybe I have to drop my daughter off or pick her up, or, there are lots of different reasons. But for the most part, I do stick to a morning schedule. So when I decided to start doing all of the things that are involved with 250 and beyond, I had to figure out, well, when am I going to have time to film? When am I going to have time to edit the videos? When am I going to have time to come up with the ideas and create an outline? And how am I going to write an essay every week? And so I've had to sort of develop a system for that and fit it into my days, which typically means Monday through Friday, I'm working. So I try to do it either like first thing, well, not first thing because I'm doing my workout, but before I start working, I try to do a little bit. And then typically, like during my lunchtime, which is what I'm doing today, I will film. And by the time I film, I do have an outline that's developed enough that filming goes pretty smoothly and it's not too bad. And I've done other things in the past where I've had to be on camera. So uh, as much as I kind of stumble over my words sometimes, and I know I say and like, and which are all no-nos, that's how I talk. And I've never been able to really get rid of that. And it is what it is. But other than that, my filming goes pretty smoothly. And so I've had to really figure out this system, and the way that it works for me is usually I have ideas mapped out for my content and topics, usually a few weeks ahead of time because I like it to be sort of cohesive. I don't want to be like jumping all over the place. So I do that usually over the weekend. And then on Monday, I refine an outline so that I know what I'm going to talk about and what order I'm going to talk about it in. And then I typically film on Tuesdays. Today's Wednesday that I'm filming this. So that didn't work out. But again, flexibility is key. And then I usually edit and package the YouTube video on Wednesday and get it posted to YouTube so that it's scheduled so that it goes out on Thursday. And then I move on to creating my essay, which is I've actually sort of refined the process and made it simpler. So I typically take the transcript from this video and then I edit it and use it because I want it to be similar. I want it to be the same. And I know that some people consume content by video and some people like to read. Some people like to do both. But I want it to be cohesive. So I usually take that, create an outline from that transcript, and then write the essay. So that usually goes by fairly smoothly as well. Some essays have taken longer than others, but it's typically something that I can fit into my work, my day. Doing something in the doing like starting it in the morning and then finishing it up either during lunchtime or at the end of the day. So I've been able to do that, and then I also take pieces of that content throughout the week and use them for my TikTok and my Instagram and kind of figure all of that stuff out too. So it's been a lot, but it's been fun. And that's what I'm focused on is having fun with this and making sure that I'm not just like rambling about nothing. And maybe sometimes it sounds like I am, but for the most part, I really want it to be meaningful and helpful to the people who do watch it or read the content. So that's really the focus. And I'm finding that this flow of scheduling things the way that I have has really made that easier. And I've talked before about doing less. So this may seem kind of counterintuitive to that because I did add something new, but I did also take some things out. So, number one, I think that's really important to note is that I've taken the pressure away. Again, I'm not focusing on how many people are watching this video. I'm not focused on how many followers I have or how many likes I have. I'm just focusing on getting the work done and getting it shared out. And then, eventually maybe I will, but for now, I've removed that pressure. I've also taken a step back from some of my other writing. So I have mentioned in the past that I was working on a novel last year, and working on that just didn't hasn't felt in alignment with where I'm at right now. And I know I will come back to it at some point, but right now, this is just something I'm having fun with and enjoying, and so that's what I'm focused on. And I'm fitting it into my day. Like I'm not stressing about it. Like yesterday, I didn't have time to film on my normal day, and I didn't stress about it. I just knew, you know what, I'll be able to do it tomorrow. It's not a big deal. Move on with your life. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm not adding all of this extra pressure. I'm not adding a ton of extra time. And I'm making sure that the work that I am doing can be used again. So I can take a clip from this video and post it to Instagram, or I can take an excerpt from my article and I can use that as I can take quotes and use it as a carousel or something like that. So a lot of it can be repurposed. So even though it's a lot, I'm able to make the most out of the content that I am creating. I am seeing that the brand is beginning to grow. Part of that may be because my incredibly supportive friends and family know about this now. And so they're watching and they're commenting and liking. But I am also starting to get noticed by people who I don't know. So I'm getting comments and questions and new followers and, making connections and having conversations, which is really what social media is all about, right? It's so much fun to get to know people and have these interactions with like-minded people. And for me, that's really what this brand is all about. So that's been really exciting. But again, I'm not worried so much about the followers and all of those different metrics that as a professional marketer, I typically pay attention to, but sometimes that can take the fun out of it. And right now, I'm just having fun. And I think success for me right now with this brand is just showing up. again, with the action goals, with making sure that I am checking everything off of my checklists for the week. I'm filming, I'm editing what I've filmed, I'm posting, I'm creating new content every single week. And I am really hooked into whatever the message is for that week. So, again, for this week, I'm talking about starting something new and what that experience has been like. And so, across all of my content, that theme is sort of like the thread that stays constant. And I really want what I talk about to be meaningful. And I feel like if it's meaningful to me, um, it'll be meaningful to other people who can connect to that and who maybe have shared experiences. That might only be a handful of people. It may not be hundreds or thousands or whatever. It may just be a handful of people, but that's good enough for me right now. But I'm really focused on those action goals and making sure that I am taking the actions that I committed to. And like I talked about last week, that's really where confidence comes in. So I'm feeling more confident in making these videos and creating the posts that I share on social media and posting my essays every week, even if nobody's looking at it, even if nobody is commenting. I am just starting to feel more confident in this brand because I have been going through the motions, taking the steps, and taking action on what I committed to. I think the biggest takeaway for me has been that you can start something without having all of the answers. You don't need to have clarity to jump into something. You can just kind of jump in and say, hey, let's see what happens. And that's what I've been doing. And I know just from watching other creators over the year, I've seen people say that many times that, starting messy is better than not starting it at all. And I think that's such a great way to live, right? Like you can start anything without really knowing what you're doing. You're not always going to be an expert in everything, and there might be something you're interested in trying. And just giving it a shot is so much better than like reading about it or watching videos about it because you're not truly experiencing it. And so that has really been, I think, that my biggest focus is really just jumping in, figuring it out as I go, letting it be messy, and just going with the flow, I guess. And I've always been a planner. So, in previous businesses, previous goals that I've set for myself, I would start with the big end goal and then I would work my way backwards and reverse engineer that goal. This time I'm doing it backwards from that. So I'm just kind of building and seeing what happens. I don't have an end game in mind. And this could go in lots of different directions. It could just stay like this and I could just be posting and the handful of people who see it and interact and great, and it helps me to get some clarity around my own experience and what I'm doing. So it might just be that. It could blossom into a larger brand and maybe at some point I will find a way to monetize it if I want to, but I don't know. I don't know if that's what I want to do. But there are lots of different things that could happen. And it's kind of exciting not knowing and just focusing again on taking the actions, taking the steps that I have outlined already. And I do plan out my content a little bit ahead, like a couple of weeks, but that's it. And I'm very flexible with it. Nothing is rigid. Everything is, has some flexibility built into it. I do feel like I'm building momentum because momentum is really built from taking action and repeating those actions over and over again. And that's what I've been doing. I've been very consistent with my posting. I've been very consistent with my themes and just repeating that every week, every single week. I'm filming, editing, putting everything together, writing my essay, getting my content together for YouTube or for TikTok and Instagram, and rinse and repeat. Next week, do the same thing. And I've been enjoying it. So, it could continue to build. It could stay where it's at, but I'm okay with either because again, like this is helping me to process this time in my life where things are a little bit uncertain and a little bit different. And, getting older is wonderful, but sometimes it can be scary. And so I'm really finding that this is really helping me to process all of that. But compared to when I was younger, where I was constantly looking at how many comments did I get? How many likes did I get? And When I was in direct sales for a while, like how much money am I making, and all of those kinds of metrics. Now I'm really just not worried about that. I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to be some big influencer. I really just want to build something that is meaningful to me and that could potentially be meaningful and helpful to other people who are experiencing the same things. So I think the big message that I would like people to take from this is that if there's something new that you're considering starting, you don't have to be certain about everything. You don't have to have a big end goal in mind, and you do not have to have everything figured out. All you have to have is commitment to the process. So figuring out the actions that you need to take and then taking them, and not just like, oh, someday I'll do that, or maybe I'll start next week. Like, actually create a plan for your first few weeks and figure out what it is that you need to do to get started. That is really what's going to build momentum and really build your confidence so that you can start taking even bigger steps, and really, getting more into it and figuring out if it's even something you want to do, because sometimes there are things that you might start and you don't like it and it's just not worth your time, and you don't always know that until you actually get started. So you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to know everything. You just need to commit to those actions, and really, for me, that's my whole goal, just showing up and doing the things.